Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Machakodash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS. They give us his truth and know the spirituality and salutations. The order I can pushing this word throughout the four corners of the earth and sincerity and the truth. This is the brother Yahweh Sap, and the topic of this lesson is going into the mark of the beast, which is a recurrent topic, here in these last days, because that's going to be the major prophecy that's going to bring forth the Heavenly Father's wrath and destruction upon Babylon the Great and the rest of the world, So you got China beating Elon and these brain chips, these microchips, and these elites, the powers that be, they want to make it seem as if there is a competition and we have to beat China, so they set China up as the model, to spearhead this new world order as far as, setting everything up first so they could see, so they could basically test it out, This is why China is communist. This is all by design, by the way. All these different political systems set up throughout different parts of the earth. It was all for an agenda to bring us forth to this point. Now, with China, they have surveillance everywhere. I believe there's about 10 cameras for every individual they have out there. So that's billions of cameras, and then you have social credit score, you have digital payments, WeChat, right? And they even have their own version of 15-minute cities, So all of that is basically as a test run, which is why Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum, he's always speaking about how China is the perfect model for what they're getting ready to do here in the West, So that is why you see all these different flock cameras all over America, millions of them, hundreds of millions of them have been put up over the past couple of years. And cameras even in, in areas you wouldn't think of, on the highway, they'll have cameras in those, what do you call it? Those cones, those giant yellow cones, they have cameras set up in them, They got, it just got exposed that police all over America have cameras set up in fake utility boxes, So this is all to bring forth this surveillance system. And also on top of that, we have those data centers being built at astronomical pace, over 5,000 already here in America and still growing. Why is that? Because America is going to be the brains, or where all the data is stored, for the rest of the world, because this place here, Babylon the Great, is going to be the seat of the New World Order, right? This is the beast of the seat of the beast, the beast system, right? So without further ado, this is Revelation chapter 13. I'm gonna start at 11. It says, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." Now this represents Rome, the Roman system, which America is Rome revived, reincarnated, right? Which is why it has the same political system as Rome, which is democracy, right? So when it says he had two horns like a lamb, that represents the two political powers, because that's what horns represent, power, So the two political powers is the Democrats and the Republicans, which back in Rome were known as the plebeians and patricians. You had the plebeians, I believe, was the one that was the Democrats, which was for the people, and the patricians was the version of the Republicans, which is more for the elites, the aristocrats or whatever, right? And it says, "And he spake as a dragon," so going into what their laws, their executive orders and so on and so forth, right? which is going to get more and more tyrannical. Because when you go into the history, you had this Roman judge or governor, and he was known as Draco, and he had harsh laws, that would punish people severely for light crimes. So this is what we see now. They're passing different laws and legislations criminalizing, different things that before weren't even thought of as a crime. You criticize Amalek, the small hats, that is a federal crime now. You could get years in prison for criticizing those people, right? So it says, and he exercised of all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed, which is Rome. They had a deadly wound, and the deadly wound happened when they went down, and the Holy Roman Empire came up, which was Jake, so-called black people. Rome got taken down, and we came up as the Holy Roman Empire. The Holy Roman Empire was known as that because the holy people ruled the Holy Roman Empire, which is the so-called black. The holy people is the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. But at the time, it was mainly the so-called blacks, that ruled the Holy Roman Empire. So that was their deadly wound. But it says the deadly wound was healed. How was it healed? During the Renaissance, which Renaissance means rebirth. What is it the rebirth of? The rebirth of Rome. So that's why they call it Renaissance, because they knew that this was prophecy being fulfilled, right? When they came to the West, they called it manifest destiny, prophecy fulfilled, pretty much. So they knew that they were fulfilling this, right? Even Elon, he got quotes on his Twitter speaking about how America is the new Rome. He's always wearing Roman clothing on Halloween and stuff like that, But he said America is the new Rome, but except like ancient Rome, America won't go down, right? Which is pride. The scriptures talk about how Esau's mindset is that his house is going to continue forever, and his house to all generations. That's the pride of this devil. He sees that every ancient empire had their rise and fall, but some way, somehow, he doesn't think he can go down, even though he fell before, as the Greeks and as the Romans, But he thinks that now, because of this technology, that he's on the level of the Most High. He got godlike power, so nothing can take him down, So this is why when the Most High take him down, it's going to be on an astronomical level, man. It's going to be far outside of this world judgment, We talking, the nuclear wrath, but even before then, the Most High is getting ready to plague America with all types of plagues and pestilences, man. And the main miracle is going to be the nuclear destruction. That's going to be the main wonder, the main plague that the Most High sends against Babylon. Verse 13, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. So the wonders, those are the miracles, those technological feats, dropping bombs from the sky, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, right? So that's a version of spiritual power. Just like Elijah, he was able to call fire from heaven. Now this devil, he's able to do it with his technology, right? It says, and he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. Those miracles is people that couldn't speak can speak now. People that couldn't walk can walk now. People that couldn't see can see now, right? Those are the miracles, that he's doing. His technology, right? So it's deceiving them that dwell on the earth, because they're making it seem as if it's a good thing, as if it's beneficial, but really it's a trap. Because once you take it, you basically a slave now, and you will no longer have any individual thoughts. You will no longer have self-control. You will be programmed. You will be a robot. You know. So he's embellishing this thing, and making it seem like you get godlike powers, but that's the trap. That's the trap of the serpent. When the serpent came to Eve, like the scriptures say, through subtlety, he enticed her, telling her that you're gonna be as God, knowing good and evil, right? So this is what this chip is all about. Really, when you go deeper into it, this is the serpent beguiling Eve, the woman, which represents the nation of Israel, with this thing, because that's who they really mainly care about. Because they know as long as they could have the Israelites defiled, as long as they could keep us sinning, they'll stay in power. So it says, "And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles." Matter of fact, let's see what the word for miracle is. The word for miracle in the Greek is semeion. It says neuter of a presumed derivative of the base G4591, an indication, especially ceremonially or supernaturally, miracle, sign, token, wonder. It says a sign, mark, token, that by which a person or a thing is distinguished from others and is known. So that's what separates Esau, Edom from the rest of the nations. Those wonders, those feats, those technological advancements, and his blessing of the sword, right? The scriptures clearly tell you how the Most High will bless Esau with the sword, and the fatness of the earth, right? They have everything, which is why they're able to fund different research, pour billions and trillions into different things to, eventually bring it out in these last days, right? It says a sign, prodigy, portent, an unusual occurrence, transcending the common course of nature. So transcending the common course of nature. It's not natural for, fire to come down from heaven, for bombs to be dropping. It's not, these things ain't natural, man, right? To use technology to make somebody walk. That's transcending the common course of nature, So that would be considered a miracle. A sign portending remarkable events soon to happen, of miracles and wonders by which God authenticates the men sent by him, or by which men prove that the thing which they are pleading is the Most High's. Yeah, so, you have the left hand and the right hand. So just like how Pharaoh and his magi's had their miracles on the left hand, Moses and his brother Aaron, they had the Most High's miracles on the right hand. But guess what? Moses and Aaron's power that the Lord imparted unto them overpowered Pharaoh and his magi's. And the Lord told Moses, I made you a god unto Pharaoh. So that's the set that we're in now. Pharaoh being Esau, Edom, these elites, right? The bankers, Donald Trump, those billionaires, Elon, they will be considered Pharaoh, the ruling class, So we're a god to them, right? We're prophesying to them that the Most High is getting ready to plague and destroy Egypt for enslaving his people, So it says, and he deceived them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. Yes, so saying to them that dwell on the earth. So the scriptures tell you that Babylon had been a golden cup that made the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of that wine, therefore the nations are mad. So these nations have all partaken of this. They all implementing this agenda all over the earth. This is why you see the rise of digital IDs and all of that, right? So this is them making an image to the beast, all right? It says, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So Anybody that's not with this thing, these agendas that they're bringing, you pretty much gonna be ostracized, exiled, and a target, a terrorist. You're gonna be targeted to be killed. You know, you're gonna be considered a domestic terrorist. Verse 16, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Right? So we always go into this word for mark in the Greek, which is G5480. The word there is charagma. And it says a stamp on a printed mark. It says of the mark stamp on the forehead or the right hand or the badge of the followers of the Antichrist, which there is no Antichrist, anti-Yahushai, anti-Messiah, anti-Mashiach. There's many, as the scriptures say. So it's not just one man that we're all waiting for. That one man is made up of many people, the so-called white man. When you read the scriptures, the Most High refers to nations as one man, as one people. The nation of Israel is referred to as Jacob. The nation of Edom is the Edomites is referred to as Edom. Right? They're referred to by their forefathers. Right? So it says, it says the mark branded upon horses. So if you take this thing, you're pretty much gonna become property. You're gonna be patented. It says thing carved, sculpture, graven work. So this chip is an idol. It's an idol to the elites, pretty much. Just like you had the king of Babylon in his time, he had the statue made of him so that all nations could worship him through that statue. So that's what people are going to be spiritually doing by taking this mark. They're going to be worshiping the powers that be through that idol, which is the RFID microchip. It's of idolatrous images. Right? Now, when you go into the root etymology of charagma, the word there is charax in the Greek, which is G5482. And it says a pale or stake a palisade. So it shows you that it's a physical thing. A pale stake or palisade, which those things are sharp. You stake them in the ground, or anything else, right? It says a palisade or rampart. So, those things will be used in battle, to siege and things of that nature. So this chip is going to be a siege against your soul, against people's souls. You will no longer be able to do whatever you want to do. Your spirit will be trapped, right? You will be controlled. They'll have total control over your minds, man. But you got Israelite camps playing about what the mark of the beast is, even as it's clearly happening, man. Everybody can see it. Christians, atheists, right? People that don't even believe the Bible, they're starting to say that, it's something about this book, man. How is it? It's predicting things that's happening right now as we speak, right? So the time is coming where there will no longer be any denial. When it's fully implemented, there will be no denying what it actually is, man. All right? So it says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or on their foreheads, which is the most common places that people put them, the right hand or in their heads, which, both of these locations is the hottest areas in your body, right? Because most people are right-handed, therefore their right hand has more heat, and your forehead, that's where your brain is at. So that's always going to be the hottest part because that's the biggest muscle, uses the most energy, which is why that's really the main place they really want to put it, because it's going to basically power the chip, right? So it's going to be the right hand on the foreheads, just like how Elon is doing with Neuralink and many other companies in the West. And now you got China allegedly beating them. So now they're going, oh, we can't let this happen. We got to, And then next thing you know, this thing is gonna be global, man. It's gonna happen very quickly. We're gonna see this happen by the end of this year to next year. The hour of temptation is upon us. And Lord's will, I'm about to get there too. It says, "And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name," which shows you that it's a physical thing. It's tangible. It's not spiritual. The mark of the beast is sleeping white. Well, mark of the beast is thought pattern. Well, always coming up with new shit, man. Mark of the beast is Christianity. Get the fuck out of here. How can you buy and sell with a belief? That makes no sense. So it's a physical thing. The mark of the beast is the RFID microchip. And they're going to have different names for it. NFC implant, of course, Neuralink, right? All types of different names for it. But we know it's a chip, an implantable device they put in your body for buying and selling purposes, identification purposes, right? That's what it's going to be used for. It's June. Ain't no microchips. Right? Well, nigga, it's June and the microchip is here, man. No longer can you deny it, man. Right? It says, "Here is wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. The man is the so-called white man, and his number is 603 score and 6. And if you realize, that number is really tied to that man. Really. Google, the symbol for Google is 666. The symbol for CERN is 666. It's in damn near, all these different major logos, man. So that's the number of that man, right? 666, which 666 is the number that's on all products all over the world. All products have a UPC code, Universal Product Code. That's what UPC stands for. So that code, wherever you at in the world, if you scan it, is going to only be tied to this certain product. The first line represents 6, the middle line is 6, and the last line is 6. So that's 666. So who's implemented that system? The so-called white man. Who implemented capitalism and all this bullshit? The so-called white man. So that's the number of that man, right? So taking this chip pretty much means you're a product, of these powers that be. You're no longer a human being, So from there, let's go to Revelation chapter 3. This is Revelation chapter 3, verse 10. It says, "Because thou hast kept the word of my patience," which is talking about the prophets, the believers, the 144,000, "have kept the word of my patience." The word of the Lord's patience is what? Repenting, right? Keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, abiding in prophecy, right? Waiting on the deliverance. That is the word of the patience of Yahweh Bashim Ashah. "I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation." The hour of temptation is upon us. The hour of temptation is right around the corner. We've seen all these different crises taking place. That's going to lead to the hour of temptation. It's all by design. The coming global famines, the coming super El Nino, global warfare, weather warfare, right? All these things is to bring the hour of temptation. It's to squeeze people, to make the world desperate, right? Depopulate the earth, kill billions, shock the world, have everybody in fear, and, showing them the way out. The only way out being the RFID microchip. Or you lost your job, you desolate, you desperate, you don't have any money, you can't, you can't feed yourself, you don't have any food. Don't worry, we got you. We'll give you some rations, but all you got to do is take this. We'll give you universal basic income. Well, now they switching it up with Elon. Universal high income, because basic don't sound too good for the people. So they'll tell you universal high income, right? And then when you when these people go ahead and take it, they realize that ain't no high income. The high income is $2,000 a month, and 1,900 out of that is taxes and fees. You know, so we seeing this devil deceiving them that dwell on the earth. You know, and people gonna fall for it, just like how they folded during the Novid operation back in 2020. That was a test run, and they seen how people folded for that, even when times weren't hard. So they know that when they bring those tough times, which they are now, that people are surely gonna fold. Right? So I'm gonna read it again. It says, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. So the hour of temptation is gonna come upon the whole world. That's why China got their chips. All these different nations got the chip, pretty much. You know, so it only takes certain crisis to bring forth, you know, this thing on a global scale. And that main crisis they're gonna use is gonna be World War III. You know, World War III and famine. That's gonna be the great motivator for people to line up and take this thing. You know, and then they'll be considered domestic terrorists if they don't take it. They'll pretty much have no identity. Your ID don't mean nothing. You need to be digitally on a system, and the only way they're gonna allow you to do that is if you take this thing. But guess what? Taking it will result in your doom. What is it? Revelation, I think 14. Let me see. Yep. This is Revelation chapter 14, verse 9. It says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead, or in his right, or in his hand. So it don't matter what hand you got it at. It don't matter if it's in your forehead, in your left ear. It don't matter if, like Apostle Dawes said years ago, it don't matter if you take it in your left butt cheek. You know, if you got it in your body, you're done. It don't matter if you take it out. You're done. Because the commandment is not to do it. So once you do it, it's over with. Right? So it says, if any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yashah, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. So total nuclear devastation, man. You know, because that's what's promised to Babylon the Great. Total nuclear annihilation. Or matter of fact, Revelation 14 and 7, saying with a loud voice, fear Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. The hour of the Lord's judgment, we're in that hour now. All right. The time of the Most High bringing judgment on this earth, which the main judgment is going to be the nuclear destruction of Babylon the Great, which is going to cause the earth to reel to and fro like a drunkard, cause a global earthquake, you know, like the scriptures say, such as never man has ever seen before. Right? So it says, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yashah. It says, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city. Babylon is America in prophecy, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. So China's pushing this, right? All these different nations are pushing this agenda because they're drinking of the wine of the wrath of the Lord's. They're drinking of the wine of Babylon, you know, which the wine of Babylon is going to lead to Babylon's destruction, as well as anybody partaking with Babylon, right? So it says, I'm going to read it again. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. So that shows you that Babylon would be where the mark of the beast is implemented. You know, that's going to be the epicenter for the mark of the beast, and it will be pushed globally. That's what, you know, you could get from this, man, if you're spiritual. Because the next verse goes into what happens if you take it. Right? This is all going into Babylon's destruction and the people that take the mark of the beast. You know, so, hey, man, you know, do not fall for this thing. If you're a so-called black, Hispanic, or Native American, do not take the mark of the beast. Do not take the RFID chip, Neuralink, whatever they want to name it. Return to Yahweh Bashim Yahshua, repent, and the Lord is going to take care of you in the time of trouble. Just like how we did, all throughout our history. We're about to spiritually go through a version of the wilderness, back in Egypt, right? Where the Most High is going to test us to see, where our faith lies, whether it be lying in Egypt, Babylon, the system, or in him, right? Things going to look like a desert. It's going to look like there's no way out. It's going to look like there is no shade. It's going to look like there's no water, no appeasement, right? But hey, it's going to come out of nowhere on the Lord's timing. The Lord rained food from heaven, gave us angels food, split the rock using Moses, had water gush out of a rock, right? So these are the types of miracles we got to believe in, that Yahweh Bashim Yahshua is going to take care of us. Because times are only getting harder, man. And the only way out is Yahweh Bashim Yahshua. So with that, I'm going to close out. I hope this was edifying. I'm going to give all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Achakodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS. They give us his truth. And salutations to all the Akim pushing this word throughout the four corners of the earth in sincerity and the truth. Shalom.